Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel, Wes Richardson Unfiltered. This is a quick update for the Finding Ellis series. I told y'all instead of having you wait till the next chapter, I thought I would just do some updates so you don't have to wait quite as long. If you're new to this, basically I've got a great-granduncle that died in World War II. His name was William Ellis Bolynn. He was killed, but his body was never identified and brought home, so the family is submitting DNA in hopes to get a match and send him home. So we're doing this chapter series to honor him and his life, also his brother Dewey that also died in World War II. And yeah, so anyway, update. And I got a letter in the mail from the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System. Armed Forces DNA Identification Laboratory. This is Purple Heart Drive in Dover Air Force Base, Delaware, I think. So, let's read it. Let me block out my name, my address for the Facebook or the YouTube weirdos out there. So anyway, it says, Dear Mr. Richardson, thank you for taking the time to donate your sample in support of identifying fallen heroes. On December 18th, the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System received the DNA sample you submitted associated with the case number shown at the bottom of the page. So, Ellis has his own case number. Based on your relationship to the service member, your submission is eligible for DNA testing. Good news. We already knew that, though. The sample will be processed and the resulting DNA profile will be added to the family reference database. If needed, the profile will be used in the remains identification process. I'm 42. I'm going to need glasses. I've been fighting it, but it's happening. The request of DNA sample does not imply that there are recovered remains associated with your loved one. Should there be recovered remains believed to be associated with your loved one, your service casualty officer will so advise. And then it provides some resources at the bottom. So basically, it's just an acknowledgement that they've received my DNA and we do qualify, and they're submitting it to the lab, which is good news, and it's what we wanted. A couple other family members, my mom, my uncle, I think Hattie Bolynn, there might be, my cousin Christy, she also submitted, so everybody's probably getting a letter saying, hey, we got it, and good to go. So no big updates there, but at least an acknowledgement that something is happening is good news, right? So with the DNA sampling and again, I know it's a stretch, but the end goal here with Finding Ellis would be identifying his body, bringing him home so we can have a proper burial for him. Anyway, it could take some time. Now, something I found out about the medical records themselves, apparently there was a fire around 1973, 1974, and a lot of our World War II veteran or World War II documents were burned up in the fire. So let me tell you a little bit about that. So I've asked AI to kind of compile this in a 5-minute script. I'm just going to try and read what it wrote here. The 1973 military records fire, what happened and why it matters. Most people don't know this, but one of the biggest losses of U.S. military history didn't happen during the war. It happened in 1973 in a building in St. Louis, Missouri. This is the fire that explains why so many families today are told those records no longer exist. What burned? On July of 1973, a massive fire broke out in the National Personnel Records Center, also known as the NPRC. The NPRC, those are some of the individuals we've been working with the DNA samples and getting records and things like that. The building held millions of official military service records, not copies, not backups, but the originals. How bad was the fire? The fire burned for 4 days. There were no sprinkler systems in this building. Paper files were stored on open shelves and floors full of military records going back decades. By the time it was over, millions of records were either completely destroyed or badly damaged by fire, smoke, and water. It was a total loss. What records were destroyed? This is the part that affects so many families today. About 80% of United States Army personnel records from 1912 to 1960 were destroyed. That is Ellis and that is Dewey. Now, the good news is, well, I'll tell you that at the end. This includes most World War II Army soldiers. About 75% of Air Force records from 1947 to 1964 were also lost. This includes World War II airmen. The Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard records were mostly spared, which is why researching those branches is often much easier. So Dewey and Ellis, they were in the Army. Those are the two that died. And then we've got two more, though. They came home. That's A.T. Bolynn and Bill Wilson Bolynn. They were in the Navy. They came home. So supposedly their records are a little bit easier to get. I'll talk about that here in just a sec. What was in the files? Enlisted paperwork, training records, unit assignments, medical and hospital records, wounds, injuries, everything was in these records. For families trying to learn what happened to a father, grandfather, or uncle, this was devastating. There's still hope, folks. Just wait for the end. Why families still hit a wall today? When families request military records now, they often get a letter that says records were likely destroyed in the 1973 fire. So if you ever wondered why your family can't get a full military record or why World War II story feels incomplete, the fire is why. So yes, we did lose a lot of military records, and I've gone in, I mentioned this in other chapters, I've requested the military records for 4 of these service members. Bill Wilson, A.T., they were in the Navy. We should be able to get those. They're actually processing. Ellis, I actually already have. I have 40 or 50 documents of his military service, where his platoon was, military records, so that's good. And the thing about Ellis is, the real mystery is, can we find his body and submit DNA samples? We don't really need military records to do that. But what the tricky part is for Dewey. Dewey is the one that died in the airplane crash. Okay, so right now, I tried to talk about this in chapter 2, but I got a little emotional at the end, and I didn't really make myself clear. But as of right now, Dewey's death is labeled as like an accidental death, or not killed in action. It was like non-combat related. But I found that the airplane that Dewey was on was a medical evacuation flight. So that means he either was shot before he got evacuated or was on this plane, or he was killed before he got on this plane. And if that's true, he was never awarded his Purple Heart or any other medals associated with his death. Now, if you notice the Finding Ellis chapter, the cover there that it says Finding Ellis, and there's 2 medals on there, those are Ellis's medals. That is a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. If I can show by getting these records of Dewey that he was injured before he got on that plane, we can have him awarded a Purple Heart in his death. So that's the tricky part. I need those records. So the good news is, because it was a medical flight, the flight information, or anytime there's a crash, those records are actually stored in a separate area outside of the Army stuff. So we could have hope. We could have hope. So that's where we're at. We got our confirmation that DNA is received, and we'll continue working on getting their records so we can piece some more stuff together. The day this video posts, this should post on February 20th, my mom, my stepdad, and myself are headed to Georgetown, South Carolina to see if we can find the graves of Hattie Bolynn and William David Bolynn. I call them Mama Bear and Papa Bear. And that's in Georgetown, South Carolina. And the next day, Saturday the 21st, we're going to Charleston for a convention to meet with the caseworkers that are helping identifying Ellis's body, and that have also found other family members. So again, thanks for watching. Thank you for helping me honor my family, my uncles that gave their life for our country. And yeah, we'll see you in the next chapter. Thanks.